Welcome to Wisconsin DNR's Wild Wisconsin Off the Record podcast. Information straight from the source.
For many, summer means spending long days out on the water fishing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But what if you haven't been fishing before? Or maybe, like me, you haven't done it since you were a kid and you're thinking maybe you want to give it another try. Where do you go? How do you actually clean a fish? What sort of equipment do you need? It can feel like a lot, right? Well, just in time for the warmer weather, free fishing weekend, and National Boating and Fishing Week, we are here today to talk with Theresa Stabo, DNR's R3 Fishing Coordinator, and Caitlin Henning, a communications specialist in the Division of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, to help you get started. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Why don't you introduce yourselves? Theresa?
All right. Yes, I'm Theresa Stabo. I'm with the Bureau of Law Enforcement, and I'm in the R3 program. And my focus there is on fishing.
Perfect. Caitlin?
Hi, my name is Caitlin. I am in the Division of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks here at the DNR, and I am also a adult beginner angler. I have fished as a kid. One of my mom's most cherished photos of me is me holding some sort of tiny guppy fish. It might have been 3 or 4 inches long that I caught off a dock somewhere and then threw back. But as an adult, I've plunked leeches, and that's about it. But I want to learn more. I want to actually get into it. I want to fish for dinner. I want to get out there and know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you today because I have very vivid memories of summers on the lake in Canada fishing with my parents. Once I was finally old enough to go with them on their big week-long fishing trip. I was so excited, but I haven't done it since then. So very excited. I guess to start, how did you get into the world of fishing?
Well, I just want to say first, Caitlin and Katie, you are in good company. There are a lot of people who somehow missed the boat as kids. They didn't attend those clinics when they were little, or maybe it was such a long time ago and then life got in the way and they just didn't get out there they haven't been out there for a long time and they want to give it another try. But how I got into fishing was pretty much the same route a lot of people who do fish, how they got there, and it was through families. I'm the baby of 6, and my folks would take us all down to a nearby lake outside of Milwaukee, and since I was a little one, they plunked me down with a cane pole, and my older sibs got the fancy, spin casting gear, but I sat there with my cane pole and drowned worms, and when my parents were wise, they knew that when I had enough, they weren't going to keep me chained to that cane pole. Yeah, go play in the swings, do whatever. So they knew to give it to me in small doses. And then as I got older, I really did enjoy fishing with my dad and mom and my some of my other sibs. And we just kind of did it as a family. And then I married and had a family of my own. And it was part of our family tradition, too, to go fishing. Just something we do.
Great. I think there's so many great stories like that where, it has a lot of memories connected to it, fishing does. And it is really something that you can start as a kid and keep doing pretty much forever until you're in the ground. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what R3 is? So we mentioned that you work for R3 within the DNR, but what does that mean?
R3. Any guesses?
Well, we might. Spoiler
we
alert.
might
know the answer to this question.
Okay, R3, recruitment, retention, and reactivation. So recruitment, Caitlin, you're actually would be in the recruitment.
I think so. Yeah.
Part of our plan. We want to get people who have never fished for whatever reason, and then reactivation. Maybe that would be you, Katie, just getting you back into it. And retention, we want to keep you. Once we've got you back in the fold, we want to keep you there so that you'll continue to go out and enjoy these wonderful resources that we have in Wisconsin. An important reason for us to recruit and retain anglers is to have more eyes on the water, and just to help more people have this relationship with our aquatic resources and our fisheries so that they'll have a vested interest in their well-being. you take care of things that you love. And so we want to spark a love affair with our fisheries and our lakes and streams.
You know, that actually rings really true to me just as a beginner, as an adult beginner. So I came to hunting as an adult too, and I look at the landscape so much differently. I look at wildlife so much differently. I look at my time outside in the woods. It's a different experience, and fishing is still brand new to me, but I know that as I get into it, I'm going to look at the water differently. I'm going to look at fish differently. I'm going to see different possibilities that I don't yet know are there by interacting with the resource in a different way.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point that a lot of people probably don't think of. You know, it's one of those things like once that's pointed out to you, you probably realize like, yeah, I do have a better appreciation for this, but until it's pointed out, it's not really.
Yeah, it's so important to make that connection that our actions on the land will affect the fish in the water and all of the other organisms that are part of that aquatic web of life. We want to save all those pieces because they are all interdependent. We want to make sure that people, when they're out there fishing, they understand, you know, what supports this fish.
Right. Right. So I guess to kind of back up, what resources do we have, or where can a person go to learn basic fishing skills? So like Caitlin,
Where can I go?
What can Caitlin do to
All right.
start completely from scratch?
Yes, well, we do have some introductory clinics that are statewide. Free Fishing Weekend, I think you mentioned, it's always the first weekend in June. And this year comes early, the first and the second. So there will be clinics at many of our state parks. Many civic organizations and fishing clubs host these clinics, so you could go to those clinics. You can look at our website for some special classes that we have geared more for adults, like the Fishing for Dinner program. That is sort of, I like to call it angler education for big kids or angler education for grown-ups, because we want to impart the same information, but maybe we just bring it up a notch or two just for older learners. But, you know, all the same stuff, habitat, how do you select gear? How do you walk into a bait shop and not just be totally bamboozled by this endless array of shiny things?
All the things.
So start small, you know, and we encourage people to just pick out a few. And most bait shop owners are very helpful. They're not going to try to sell you the store right away. They want you to have a good time so that you'll come back and you will make good choices with, you know, they'll just ask them I want to fish for perch, or I want to fish for bluegill. What are the best, you know, what's the best tackle setup for me to get me started? And they'll help you out. You know, here's a little spin casting rod for you, and here are some lead-free sinkers to help bring your bait down. And then at these clinics, you'll learn how to tie a knot. You could also probably learn how to tie a knot watching a YouTube, but sometimes in person is just better. Yeah.
Right, everyone learns differently, so it's great to have that
you
option.
have different options, right. We have some really dear partners, the Urban Ecology Center and Madison School and Community Recreation. They are going to be hosting our Fishing in the Neighborhood interns this summer. We like to call them finterns. They're Fishing in the Neighborhood, fin, yeah. So they will be in Milwaukee and in Madison offering different kinds of clinics. Some will be set up kind of old-fashioned summer playground where people can kind of count on these finterns to be at a location on a certain day at a certain time. And other times it'll be for a summer camp in town that is a partner with MSCR or Urban Ecology Center. So different avenues, so there'll be opportunities that way. And then in other parts of the state too, we have some wonderful angler education instructors who offer clinics different times of the year. So those are other ways, you know, to watch our website, sign up for Gov Delivery notifications, and we'll let you know when those clinics are being held.
That's actually really useful, just because, you know, I can have it in my head, as as an adult, as somebody who wants to go to one of those clinics for big kids, I can think, oh, there's one coming up this weekend, but I can't do it this weekend, and it gets out of my mind. So having that update, oh, there's another one coming up, could be really useful.
Yeah, definitely check out the website, dnr.wi.gov, to stay up to date with, what clinics are even out there. We update it pretty regularly, not just in the summer, but there's options throughout winter, too.
Right.
And just on backtracking slightly, we do have the free fishing weekend in the summer, but, we recognize that some of you might be listening to this a little bit later. We do offer it in the winter, too, for ice fishing. So definitely options out there.
Yeah.
Now,
Always the third weekend in January.
third
for
weekend
winter.
in January. So first weekend in June, third weekend in January, you can count on those two to be
Right.
free fishing weekends. So you talked a bit about the gear that, people might need, and that going to a bait shop, they can help you find what you need. But what if, you don't have the gear, or you're not sure you're going to like it, so you don't want to invest any money? What options does a person have for that?
Right. We have more than 50 tackle loaner sites around the state, and many of those, about half of them, are situated at parks that are on water. So you want to go give it a try, you're going to go out to Devil's Lake some weekend, or any number of them. Up Door County, we have loaner sites up there too. We have them all, north and south, east and west across the state. A lot of opportunities for you to borrow a fishing pole and wet a line. Just give it a try.
Give it a try and see if you like it.
You need to bring your own bait. Stop and pick up some worms or something.
That's a pretty minimal commitment, though.
Right.
You're not going to hold on to those forever.
No.
Awesome. So let's say that I want to get into fishing. I've maybe never cleaned a fish or cooked one before. Maybe, Caitlin, you're kind of feeling that way and you're overwhelmed.
I actually
with,
cleaned them.
You've cleaned a fish,
Yes.
but you've never
really
fished.
Well, no, I've not never fished, but I don't know. I've always been along for the ride.
Got
And
it.
I can kind of step in once the cooking part
Once
begins.
that part happens.
Yeah.
But what if you're really overwhelmed by just the cooking side of it or the cleaning side of it? What options do
We
people have
guide
for
you
that?
through that too in these clinics. We show you how to clean a fish, and then we hand you the fillet knife and say, give it a try.
Give it a try.
And you have to just accept the fact that it's not going to be perfect.
Right.
But you just get better with every
time you
fish,
do it.
every time you do it. And this is kind of an odd confession, but when my husband and I were raising our family, even though my job was all about angler education, when we were out with our own family, we would fall into the traditional roles. We would come back, and I would go get lunch ready, and he would clean the fish. And so it was a very long time before I actually did it myself. And so finally, I don't know who said it first, but it was like, yeah, I should probably get in there. And so that's, I learned how to do it. And my first ones were pretty bad, but you just have to take it slow and just, I always thank the fish, I'm really going to do my very best to make the best use of you. Thank you for letting us catch you. And I'm going to turn you into something delicious. And
Yeah.
that's what we do.
We have a lot of water in Wisconsin. We talked a couple days ago with Secretary Cole about, all of the water that we have in Wisconsin. There's so many lakes, so many streams, so many rivers, ponds, you name it, we have it. Where in Wisconsin can people fish? Can they just go anywhere? Are there certain places that they can and can't go? What might someone just getting into it need to know there?
Wisconsin is blessed with a lot of water. We have over 15,000 lakes and thousands of miles of streams and coastline. But sometimes access to the water is the puzzler for people. But we do have information online that tells people where the public access points are. And it's also important for people to know that in Wisconsin we abide by the keep your feet wet rule. So wherever you can get access to the water, you can traverse, downstream between, between private land.
Between the shore, as long as you're in the water.
You keep your feet wet. So that's an important thing for people to know, and that's all thanks to the public trust doctrine that's embedded in our state constitution that gives Wisconsin the right to have access to the water
So let's say that I go out to a public fishing access point and it's a stream. So if I can keep my feet wet and there's another public parcel downstream, but in between it's actually private land, as long as I'm in that stream with my feet wet, I can traverse that whole...
That's right.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Now, if you come to an obstruction, you come to a big log, too high, you can't get over it, too low, can't get under it, so you can get out and just walk around that obstruction, but by the shortest means practical.
Okay.
You can't just go run off and have a picnic on there. You have to stay.
You have to stay
hop
in.
back in, and keep fishing. So.
That's a really cool thing. I imagine that many states don't have that same rule. That's pretty
right.
unique to Wisconsin.
That is, in some western states, when you buy land, you buy the water too, but not in Wisconsin. And I always like people to say this with me: all the water belongs to all the people.
That's such a cool thing about Wisconsin, especially in the year of clean drinking water this year. That we do value that water, and it's not something that we keep away from people. We want everyone to have access to it.
Right. So the water and the fisheries and wildlife, that's part of the commons. That's something that no one person in particular owns. We all own it, and we all share in the joys and responsibilities of that ownership.
Awesome. So let's say Caitlin goes out for free fishing weekend.
Yes.
Hypothetically.
Let's say that she does. Which
And she falls in love with it, and she wants to go fishing every day now.
That's great.
What does she need to do to keep going after that?
other than getting a note from my boss to let me go fishing every day.
You're doing research. So you need a license, Caitlin.
Yes.
And it really is a sweet deal. I mean, if it's just for you, you would get a license for $20, and that gets you out on the water 365 days a year. You can't fish for everything every day, but every day there is something you can catch and keep in Wisconsin. So if you are going to fish for trout, you add a trout stamp. And if you're going to go out in Lake Michigan and fish for trout and salmon out there, then that's another $10. But still, I mean, when you consider the resource and the work that our colleagues do to keep those waters fishable and swimmable,
And how many days out of the year it means you can go out and do something?
Right.
It's not like you're limited to a week for that.
No, you can go any day.
365 days
Yes,
a year.
I mean, you buy a movie ticket, you can't come back tomorrow.
No, I wish you
could. I
That
use
would be
this ticket
great.
again. I want to see the next movie.
So here's a question, a very beginner's question. So in hunting, I know that I have a bag limit for a day, and that's how many individual animals I can take that I have a license to harvest. And then I also have a possession limit of the total number that I can have in my possession. Is it the same for
Right,
fish?
it's the same.
Is there
there's
a
a bag
possession
limit, and then there's a bag, and then there's a possession limit. So you catch 10 bluegill today, and you take them home and put them in your freezer, and then you come out a few days later, and wow, you're having a banner day. How many can you catch? Because you already have those 10 back home. So you have to do the math. And
Got to eat
And
some
it's different
bluegill.
by
Some
every
room in the freezer.
Yes, right.
It's different by every species, right?
Right.
And
that's
different
right.
waters have different regulations.
Yes, yeah.
Mostly.
So trout and salmon, those in walleye, those are smaller bag limits, and so smaller possession limits. But panfish, those are, I believe it's 25 for a daily bag limit.
Any questions about that, definitely check out
Check
the
the regs.
website,
Yep.
dnr.wi.gov. You can read all of the regs. We have, by bodies of water and the seasons for some of those, because some bodies of water have specific seasons.
That's right.
And so definitely, after you buy your license, check out the regulations so you know you're doing it right.
That's right.
Are there any resources available for any organizations that might want to get involved with, the effort to help teach people how to fish?
Yes, we have a couple different avenues for people. We have an angler education instructor and an Angler R3 training program. We set up workshops around the state, different times of the year to train people. And then we also we launched a grant program last year. And that's, so it's brand new. We're also learning about it. But that's a way, if an organization, a high school, for example, or a nature center or a community center wanted to make fishing part of their programming, we have some resources. They can apply for this grant to increase their resources and their capacity to do that.
Right. That's very cool. And the fact that we, offer that option for organizations to get involved, I think is really cool. Yeah. So I won't make you give away any of your top secrets, but do you have maybe a favorite season or species or spot to fish?
I do.
Are you willing to share it with the public?
I could have a couple, so I'll give you one. I love to eat fish, so I go fishing for perch on Big Green Lake, and we are out there having a nice time after I've caught a few, so I feel that's probably enough for dinner, or if they're not biting even, I will just jump out of the boat and go for a swim. I'm probably in the water as much as I'm on the water, so I really like to be around water.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything else that you want us to know about, people who are maybe interested in fishing, who haven't gotten into it yet, or maybe have, but they're just beginners? Anything else you want them to know?
I would say if you're a beginner and you know of someone who fishes, ask them if you can go out with them sometime. A lot of times people are very welcoming. They'll be glad to share their skills with you. And at the same time, if you're an angler, ask a neighbor to go, do you want to go fishing sometime? I've taken a few neighbors out before, and it was just fun. They were very excited. Some of these are older people who hadn't fished in years, and just watching this woman in her early 70s get all excited was just very fun.
Awesome.
So how did fishing in the neighborhood get started?
I was going around to a lot of these one-day fishing clinics, and bless their hearts, the people who put these on. They do this. They want to have this annual fishing clinic, and I would go and I would talk to the kids, and I said, well, have you ever fished before? And they said, yeah, I was at this clinic last year. So that made me think, so from the annual clinic last year to the annual clinic this year, what happened? And fishing wasn't really part of their go-to thing to do. So that's why I thought I had this nostalgic view of these summer playground experiences that I had as a kid. Well, there would be a young person there who would throw out jump ropes and balls and things like that. Well, what if we had young people who would just be at a certain location at a certain time with fishing poles and bait? And it didn't exactly work out that way, but it enabled us to plant these, what I would call fishing coaches at community groups or at community centers that serve communities of color and offer repeated opportunities to learn to fish, because you need more than just one shot at it to learn how to fish. And so that's what fishing in the neighborhood does.
That's a really cool program.
Is it free to participate in it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. No one can see Theresa, but she is nodding her head. Yes, vigorously. It is vigorously. Participate.
That's fantastic. I think it really is such a great resource, as a beginner, or maybe, I imagine that some of these kids probably might not even be complete beginners anymore because they go so often, but they don't have anyone else to take them, so it's a great resource for them to stay involved.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, both of you, so much for being here today. I definitely think that listeners can learn a lot from this, and thank you, listeners, for listening. If you guys have any more questions for Theresa, or you maybe have a question you would like to have answered on a future episode, send us an email at dnrpodcast@wisconsin.gov, and thanks for listening.